9:06 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. 10 seconds into the show, and I already have every DoorDash delivery driver in the state mad at me.
I did hear that on the Four Amigos. Gotcha. So they're out and about. They're talking to you.
I didn't know it was as hot of a take, and I would like to formally apologize to any DoorDash delivery driver that I may or may not have offended. So I apologize. I'm sure that I'll find new and engaging ways to offend you as we move on through the show. So I apologize to DoorDash drivers. My name is Chris Hand. Mac Morey is producing. Ken Weaver in the newsroom. You guys on the Super Text line and the phone line, 615-737-9986. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, he's under attack. It seems like everybody's coming at him from all angles. And the Daily Beast wrote a smear campaign of an article about Mike Johnson. Does new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, have a bank account? So, okay, here's the breakdown, right? Apparently, he doesn't have any retirement savings. He doesn't own any stocks. He doesn't really have any assets, and he has less than $5,000 in his bank account. He's got a mortgage that apparently is like worth $250,000 to $500,000, a home equity loan, and a personal loan. So everybody's, what's going on with Mike Johnson? He doesn't have a bank account. Well, I just would point out that's how deep corruption is in D.C., that a guy with just $5,000 in savings is a red flag when everybody else is making, millions. Insider trading and doing all the things that they do. Mike Johnson's a regular guy with 4 kids in a house and doesn't apparently look to be profiteering off of his office. It makes me like him more, to be perfectly honest with you. But what's with all the Mike Johnson hate? They've been trying to paint him as a guy that will support Ukraine funding, and I don't know, maybe he will under the right circumstances. I don't know what those right circumstances would be, but maybe he has a good idea. He does have a good idea on how he would want to send aid to Israel, and I think this is one of the things that are getting people upset with Mike Johnson. His plan for $14.3 billion in Israel aid is to pay for it with cuts to the IRS. Sign me up. Listen, I don't want to be paying for foreign wars. I don't really want to be sending boots to any of these areas, Ukraine, Israel. I don't really want to be spending our tax dollars in Ukraine and Israel. And I know that's probably unpopular with some of you guys, but I just feel like we have a wide open southern border. We have homeless veterans on our street. We have big city crime going rampant. Like, we need to use our tax dollars at home first. That's just my personal view. And it's nothing against Israel. It's not even really anything against Ukraine. It's just it could be Canada needs help, and I would probably be like, I don't know.
Even your own people?
I would even turn my back on my own people. But here's the thing: when Mike Johnson's coming up with ideas like this, where he introduced a $14.3 billion Israel aid bill, which would be paid for in full by offsets and spending, you can get me behind that any day of the week. So this is money that was already earmarked. It was going to be spent in a way that we didn't approve, and if you want to spend it in a different way, like, I could get on board with that. So the $14.3 billion Israel aid package that they brought to the chamber Monday will be paid for in full by offsets in spending, particularly to IRS, although nobody thinks that it's going to pass. And this is also contrary to what Joe Biden wanted to do. Joe Biden just wanted over $100 billion with everything tied together. Ukraine, border, Taiwan, Israel. Let's separate these bills. Johnson did split Israel's aid off and is hoping to fund it on its own. And I think that at least he has a plan. You might even be able to talk me into funding Ukraine if you can tell me that the money's going to be coming from the IRS and those 87,000 agents. Johnson told Fox News over the weekend there's a lot of things going on in the world that we have to address, and we will. But right now, what's happening in Israel takes the immediate attention, and I think we've got to separate that. and get it through. And I believe there will be bipartisan support for that. And I'm going to push for it very hard. And I would imagine there is bipartisan support for that. It's a wonky time with the Israel stuff. Like when you find yourself, I was listening to Murphy yesterday. He's like, I'm agreeing with Hillary Clinton. I was, what? What? Did we wake up in clown world? When Fetterman is saying things that make sense and not just going, it's a weird time to be alive. But the House has been unable to act to fund Israel's defense. And the cost of this new bill that Mike Johnson is saying would be offset by cutting from Biden's Inflation Reduction Act by rescinding the $14.3 billion funding from the IRS. And it's something that Democrats, were all for the Inflation Reduction Act. They loved the IRS agents. Conservatives didn't, obviously. And the cuts included in the bill could win over conservatives who said they don't believe that they should be involved in a foreign country's war. And I happen to be one of those. I don't want to be involved in another war. And this does it. The more time goes on, the more it looks like this will be another forever war in some shape or fashion with Israel and Hamas. But will the IRS cuts win over some conservatives? The passage is up in the air because there are people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie who have publicly said they would vote against it. And I don't know, guys. Anytime Thomas Massie says he's going to vote against something, I take note. Thomas Massie's a smart guy, and if he's voting against something, I want to know why. I want to know more, and it gives me pause. Maybe there's something hidden in there that we don't know. If it were to pass the House, it probably isn't going to get through the Senate because several Republicans in the upper chamber, they don't want to upset the apple cart. Unfortunately, I mean, Dems quite literally have said the IRS cuts they're a non-starter. So if the Democrats are saying that, the rhinos are thinking it. On MSNBC's All In last night, White House Domestic Policy Advisor Neera Tanden stated that House Republican bill to offset the Israel aid by cutting IRS funding really destabilizes the consensus that on emergency funding, we don't have pay-fors and wouldn't pay for the Israel money, and it would increase the deficit, she said. She also said that the proposal makes it more difficult to pass this. This is a non-starter in the Senate. So they just want to keep printing money. They want the money machines to go burr and just keep having money be printed for all of these conflicts. They don't want to talk about where it's coming from. They don't want to make any cuts anywhere else. They just want you to just quiet down, ignore it, and did you hear Matthew Perry died? Let's watch a marathon of Friends. But that's where we're at. Don't worry about how we're getting the money, where we're spending it from. Let's just do it. Let's just print it. Money machines go burr. They say it's a non-starter. Everybody's coming out of the woodwork to attack Mike Johnson. Liz Cheney said that Speaker Johnson is dangerous and that he attempted to undermine our republic. That was Tuesday on the Center for Politics podcast. Who would invite Liz Cheney on their podcast? Oh, that's a ratings grabber. I know who I'm going to get. Liz Cheney. She said, Mike is somebody that I knew well. We were elected together. Our offices were next to each other. Ugh. Imagine the smell. Mike is somebody who says that he's committed to defending the Constitution. But that's not what he did when we were all tested in the aftermath of the 2020 election. Gosh, I love how much Liz Cheney loves election integrity. Find somebody that loves the Constitution, that loves you the way Liz Cheney loves the Constitution. She says, Mike Johnson, in my experience, and she has to, hang her hat on something. I was very deeply involved and engaged as the conference chair when Mike was doing things like convincing members of the conference to sign on to the amicus brief. He was acting in a way he knew to be wrong. And I think that the country, unfortunately, will come to see the measure of his character. Well, we are seeing the measure of his character when he doesn't have any money in the bank because he's not profiting off of his office, when he's coming up with real ideas like cutting IRS funding to help an ally that many politicians are screaming from the mountaintops, we have to do it. We have to help our greatest ally in the Middle East. Maybe we do, but let's come up with a plan. It seems like Mike Johnson's the only one that has a plan. Everybody else's plan is money machines go burr. So let's print it. Let's print it out of thin air. But this is typical DC stuff. Liz Cheney, Mike Johnson's dangerous. Mike Johnson doesn't have any money in his bank account. It's like, all right, I like Mike Johnson more. You don't have to sell me anymore.
Why is that our business, anyways?
Well, I mean, I get financial disclosures and all that kind of stuff when you're in politics, but I don't know, dude. You have 4 kids and a house payment,
yeah,
and you're making $170K a year. Like, I don't know if you guys have been keeping score at home, but Bidenomics is working. It works for everyone.
It's working,
and it's not a shocker that savings are dwindling. I mean, the average American family right now, it's like, what was this? The survey, I saw a survey the other day. It's like you're more concerned about paying for groceries than you are about saving for retirement. That's America in a nutshell. Joe Biden will tell you it's awesome. He tells everybody that it's awesome. Bidenomics is working. He actually went to Minnesota. Joe Biden went to Minnesota yesterday. Oh, Minnesota, don't you know? He goes up there. And he goes, well, all right, first, the main reason he goes to Minnesota is because Dean Phillips is from Minnesota. And Dean Phillips announced that he's running to primary Joe Biden. So that's why he goes to Minnesota. Nobody else went to Minnesota. Like there was like maybe 10 people in a barn in the middle of a field. But Joe Biden talks in Minnesota. And he honestly, truly believes that Bidenomics is working for everybody. It's like our Speaker of the House has $5,000 in savings and no assets. He's got a family of 4. Like I'm sure the average American citizen can understand that. I can understand that. I have 4 kids. It's not easy to have savings when you're cutting corners to pay for private school because woke education systems just want to rot your kids' heads out with communism and just crazy library books. So, I mean, I totally understand that he doesn't have that much in savings. Can totally vibe with that. But Biden will go to Minnesota and tell everybody, hey, folks, Bidenomics, it's working.
Folks, Bidenomics is just another way of saying the American dream.
Oh, yeah, it's the American dream. I also go right back to George Carlin. So you know why they call it the American dream? Because you have to be asleep to believe it. So, but he says Joe Biden in Minnesota talking about how great he's doing.
And inflation is coming down at the same time. It's down from 60%. It's down 60% since last summer. Core inflation is the lowest level in 2 years. We have the lowest inflation rate of any major economy in the world. Folks, all this is no accident. It's Bidenomics. And by the way, we got more to do.
Oh, yeah, you do have more to do. I mean, in fact, inflation, it's still double what it was when Joe Biden took office. So, like, I don't know what his plan is. Hey, let's get inflation up to 100% so we can bring it back to 60% and say, hey, it's down 40%. Is that what he's doing? Feels like that's what he's doing. It's working. It's working.
It's working.
It sure is. Jeez. 9058 said 8 of the people that were at the Biden speech in Minnesota, don't you know, were his staffers. 1427. Has Biden defined what working is? Well, if his plan is to destroy the economy, it's working. Probably is the plan. Ann wants to know how much do they pay people to clap. I don't know. It's probably a good gig. There's actually one guy in there. I'll play more of this audio. There's one guy in there that's like heavy-handed on the clap. Like,
he's got a big clap.
Keeps getting in like a little bit early. And it's pretty funny. 920 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
For many of us, generators are becoming a must-have household appliance. From unpredictable weather to surprise outages, it's better to be safe than sorry. Generator Supercenter of Nashville offers fast and easy installations with 24/7 service and monitoring to all brands of generators and expert repairs done right. Our mission is to make owning a backup generator simple and easy. Visit your local store today or check us out online. Generator Supercenter of Nashville. We serve all Middle Tennessee.
We'll let you know what the expectations are for American citizens getting out of Gaza today, coming up at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. As my voice cracks like a 14-year-old boy. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Better get some of that Dan Mandis tea.
I got tea flowing. I do.
It's that time of year, man.
Dude, it's I lost my voice completely last night.
Ugh.
And luckily I got it back. I guess, depends on who you ask.
Don't ask those DoorDash drivers.
don't ask the DoorDash drivers, no. But I think my wife was a little bit happy for the peace and quiet that I delivered last night. It's rare. It's rare that I don't have something to say. I thought about writing it down a couple times for her, but
you spared her.
I passed on that. Joe Biden should have passed on his visit to Minnesota. Don't you know? Mac has been waiting to play this. He went all the way up there to Minnesota. Mac.
I had to do that.
He's Mac up there. He's like, dude, I got this clip of Joe saying Minnesota. He's like, here's what we're going to do. You're going to say it like this. Okay, is that what we're going to do? He's like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to tell you how to do your show. It's like, I don't care. Why don't you play it again for the people? You were so excited.
I was. Give me 1 second. Just give me 1 second here.
Oh, you're not prepped to play it again?
There we go.
Minnesota! So he's in Minnesota, don't you know? And he's up there because he's got a new challenger in Dean Phillips, who's also from the great state of Minnesota, don't you know? And he had like 15 people show up. Like nobody was there. It was in this awful empty barn, and he took the short stairs. Took the short stairs on and off the plane. Got to Minnesota, and he talked. He talked to himself for about 20 minutes before shuffling away. He was at a hog farm in Minnesota. Showed up. I didn't know this was The View. Something like that. I think he said that. I think that's this clip.
And I'm glad to be accompanied by, I want to talk about my administration and its investment in rural America. But I also want to thank Governor Vilsack, former Governor Vilsack.
So Biden forgets people's names, but I think we all feel like the little kid in the background. I want to talk about.
I want to talk about my administration and its investment in rural America. But I also want to thank.
No.
That sounds awful, sir.
Leave us alone in the country.
I don't know. Farmers weigh in. He talks about how much money you farmers are making.
When a farmer sells his commodities normally, you have to go through the grocery store, and the farmers get about 18 cents for every federal dollar, every dollar they have. Sometimes you get less than that. But
so you get 18 cents for every federal dollar, and sometimes you get less than that, and you have to go through a grocery store or a farmer. So I don't know. Heavy words for the farming community. Does anybody have any idea what he was saying?
I have no idea, man.
The farmers are like, yeah, we know.
It's like, it's a lot less than that. 4882 said the kid sounded like an air raid siren.
I thought it was a piglet.
Did you?
Maybe his mama stepped on him.
Oh, my gosh. I feel like we all felt like that little kid. I did. I was like on clip 2. I'm like, ugh.
I'm going to start talking about my administration. Oh, no.
That was right about the time I lost my voice last night, screaming about Joe Biden. 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver's got the news.
Full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. Hundreds of U.S. citizens expected to get out of Gaza today, among other foreign nationals, on a new list posted by the Egyptian government. Ian Panel on conditions at the Rafah crossing into Egypt.
We are now seeing many more Americans now on the list. Egypt saying there's something like 7,000 foreign nationals are also hoping to get out. Obviously, people with passports from other countries around the world also desperate to get out of Gaza. But this is really just a drop in the ocean. You still have more than 2 million people trapped inside Gaza with no escape plan. And of course, don't forget the 240 plus hostages.
President Biden yesterday pushing for what he called a ceasefire, but the White House then came back and said, no, he meant a pause in the Israel-Hamas war to get the, quote, prisoners out. Don Trump Jr. and Eric Trump in court this morning in their family's civil fraud trial in New York City. And, baby, it's been cold outside. You might wonder if or when it's going to snow in Middle Tennessee. Well, the Tennessean asked the meteorologist in charge at the National Weather Service Nashville, Chrissy Hurley, who said it's still too early for snow predictions, but this is an El Nino year, which means more opportunities for wintry weather if the cold Arctic air can make it to Tennessee, since the jet stream is usually further south and active across the southern half of the U.S. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. One of the things that we see from time to time, well, way too often, is this. Let's say that you go to a financial advisor and they say, hey, you need to set up an investment portfolio, and what we need to do is we need to have some of your money in stocks or mutual funds or ETFs or something like that, and we need to have something fixed or guaranteed in your investment portfolio that'll protect you against the market downturns. And quite often what they're talking about, they may not use this word, but often what they're talking about is putting your money into some sort of an annuity, like an indexed annuity or something like that, or a fixed annuity. And what they're doing is they're saying, hey, let's put your money in both of these, which sounds really good. And you should. And typically in an investment portfolio, you do want to have fixed investments and stocks as well in the portfolio to protect against inflation. But here's what happens when you manage a portfolio. Let me use a really, really simple example. Let's say I have a portfolio and I got stocks in there. Then I have my fixed income, my bonds in the portfolio as well. And let's say I have half my money in each. When stocks really do well, what we want to do is they're going to be overweighted in my portfolio. I own too much of them because they've done well compared to bonds. It was supposed to be half and half, and now maybe it's 70% stocks and 30% bonds, let's say, or something like that. So I want to sell some of this and buy some of that to bring it back to 50-50 and back and forth throughout time. Well, the problem is when you're managing a portfolio and rebalancing in that way, bringing it back to the original portfolio mix of half and half in my example, I'm going to have to incur a trading cost or a commission or a back-end surrender with the annuity. It doesn't make any sense to use that product in this particular manner. Why do people do it? Well, the reason quite often is this. Commissions are very high with these products. And a lot of firms, they actually require their advisors to recommend a certain amount of annuities for every person that walks in the door. Now, typically annuities are used for a different purpose. They were actually designed for a totally different purpose. And that was distribution toward the end of life. When somebody looks like they're going to run out of money, they're annuitized. Now, let me tell you something. One study showed there was only like 5% of annuities are ever used in that fashion. Most often they're sold as an accumulation vehicle like this, and they were never really designed for that purpose. If you want to learn more, call us for a free 15-minute phone call or go to our website, paulwinkler.com. The number 615-851-1950 or paulwinkler.com. We don't do anything on commission, and we like to rail against these types of things and help investors do what is in their best interest. paulwinkler.com.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Man, it's been a crazy news cycle lately. So much so that there's stuff you miss. You don't even hear people talking about it. It seems like so much of the news cycle has been dominated by Israel, Hamas, the war. What's happening thousands of miles away. But there's a lot happening here on our soil too, and a lot happening that we just don't talk about. Like for instance, yesterday, I made the joke. Murphy was agreeing with Hillary Clinton, and I found it weird. Yesterday, I found myself agreeing with Bob Menendez, Gold Bar Bob.
Scary.
I did. I mean, I don't agree with. So here's the gist of the story. He was in top secret briefings on Ukraine yesterday.
Okay.
He's being charged with basically being a spy, working for a foreign government, taking bribes from Egypt, all that kind of stuff. So I don't think he should be in the classified meetings. But he did say something that I completely agreed with. This is Bob Menendez yesterday being asked why he was in those classified briefings.
You weren't able to go to the last classified briefing because Schumer didn't let you. Why are you going to this classified briefing?
First of all, you're wrong about that. He didn't say you can't go, and he didn't not let me.
So that's just the wrong assumption. I'm so sorry, sir. So why did you go to this classified briefing?
Because getting an update on Ukraine is something that's worthy as we consider the supplemental.
But you're being accused of aiding a foreign government. Why is that appropriate for you to go to a classified briefing?
Manu, I know you got to make news. Bottom line is, I'm a United States Senator. I have my security credentials, and an accusation is just that. It's not proof of anything.
And you know what? When he said that last line, an accusation is just that. It's not proof of anything. I went, yeah, he's right. He's absolutely right. We should be a country with rule of law, innocent until proven guilty. And it's just that. It's an accusation right now. So I was like, I agree with Bob. I'm not going to scream from the mountaintops, I stand with Bob. I won't. I don't think that he should be in classified briefings. I think that's a bridge too far. But I do agree with the fact that, listen, as of right now, it's just an accusation. And everybody, his wife is pleading not guilty. Bob is pleading not guilty. Everybody's denying these charges that he conspired to act as a foreign agent for Egypt while accepting bribes from January 2018 to June of 22. Was he doing it? Yeah, probably. Does it need to be proven in court before we can say the man's guilty? Yes. This is what the Democrats do. The Democrats are the ones that say an accusation is all you need. And this is what they've done. They've made the accusation just as dangerous as a guilty plea. And I don't want to fall into that. So I agree with Bob. I don't stand with Bob. But I agree with his assessment.
And an accusation is just that. It's not proof of anything.
It's not proof of anything. So I totally agree with Bob. Weird. Kamala Harris, I don't agree with. So this is of course, this is what the Biden administration does. The Biden administration is going to confront the wave of anti-Semitism that we've seen in this country. So they did it in the most Biden way possible. They put Kamala Harris in charge of Islamophobia. It's weird. Not what you would think when you want to combat anti-Semitism. But here we are. They're going to combat anti-Semitism by striking at the heart of Islamophobia.
Our nation was founded on the fundamental principle that all people should have the freedom to live, to worship, and to be without fear of violence or persecution. Every person has the right to live safe from violence, hate, and bigotry. And for those reasons and so many more, President Joe Biden and I have a duty not only to keep the people of our nation safe, but to condemn unequivocally and forcefully all forms of hate.
The Biden administration hates hate. They just hate it, and you should hate hate too. So now Kamala Harris is in charge of a new national strategy on Islamophobia. I mean, if you look at some of the big guys in the arena, like the Anti-Defamation League, they'll tell you that anti-Semitism is actually on the rise, up 400%. But the Biden administration is just lumping everything together. And Harris in this pre-recorded Twitter speech, with her very broad shoulders, and she just tries to explain why this is their national strategy. I don't know. It just feels off to me.
Since we took office, President Biden and I have fought to uphold that duty. Over the past decade, America has seen a rise in attacks on houses of worship. So in response, we expanded funding to protect houses of worship from violence. After a surge in hate during the pandemic, in particular anti-Asian hate, President Biden signed the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act.
Hey, during COVID-19, when they said that there was all the anti-Asian hate, weren't they trying to pin that on white nationalist extremists and MAGA extremists? And it turned out it was mostly African Americans in large blue cities. Am I recalling that correctly? I believe that's what it was.
To improve the reporting of hate crimes and to ensure hate crimes are investigated quickly and thoroughly. Earlier this year, in response to an historic rise in anti-Semitic attacks, we also released the first national strategy to counter anti-Semitism. And to make clear, taking on hate is a national priority. President Biden and I held the first White House summit to address hate-fueled violence, and we brought together religious leaders, community leaders, and survivors to continue our work to keep all Americans safe. And today, we take another important step forward in our fight against hate. For years, Muslims in America and those perceived to be Muslim have endured a disproportionate number of hate-fueled attacks.
I mean, I just feel like here comes the BS. Like, they whitewash over the anti-Semitism stuff, and now it's about Islamophobia. Didn't you know Islamophobia is running rampant in the country? Which is crazy to me, because I honestly try to pay attention to a lot of this stuff, and I haven't seen it. I just haven't seen it. Now, we can go down the line and cite numerous events of anti-Semitism. Numerous. But Islamophobia? What are we talking about here? Are you talking about the news media saying that our open border is leaving us wide open for a terror attack? Is that the Islamophobia you're talking about? They do point to that one event with a 6-year-old coming up here, but they don't really address the fact that it was an isolated event with a crazy person. And they try to paint with a broad brush that there's this new wave of Islamophobia, which just isn't the case.
As a result of the Hamas terrorist attack in Israel and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, we have seen an uptick in anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, anti-Semitic, and Islamophobic incidents across America, including the brutal attack of a Palestinian-American woman who was Muslim and the killing of her 6-year-old son.
I mean, is that story sad? Yes. Does it point to a national trend? No. The guy was nuts. You can look at a picture of him and tell, like, the guy is nuts. You wouldn't want to pass him on the street, let alone anything else. And crazy is going to do crazy. That doesn't mean that there's a national trend towards Islamophobia.
A senseless act of violence that the Department of Justice is investigating as a hate crime. For so many people in our nation, the past few days and weeks have brought about all too familiar fears. Fears that they will be targeted, profiled, or attacked simply because of who they are, how they worship, or how they look.
I mean, I think that the fear for that is only on one side currently. and it's on the side of Jews in this country. But, let's let Miss Harris finish here about the national trend of Islamophobia.
And so today, I am proud to announce the Biden-Harris administration will develop our nation's first national strategy to counter Islamophobia. This strategy will be a comprehensive and detailed plan to protect Muslims and those perceived to be Muslim from hate, bigotry, and violence, and to address the concern that some government policies may discriminate against Muslims. For example, the so-called Muslim ban, which President Biden revoked on our first day in office.
Yes. Let's bring up the Muslim ban. Orange Man bad, remind you, real quick. The Muslim ban, where all the Muslims were banned from entering the country, including all the North Korean Muslims. And there were other predominant Muslim countries that weren't on the list, but it was a Muslim ban. Don't forget, Orange Man bad, Orange Man racist.
So here's the bottom line. In America, no one should be made to fight hate alone. And in this moment, then, let us all clearly say, a harm against any one of us is a harm against all of us.
Oh, so deep. So deep. I will point out, nobody should have to deal with this alone, and she's basically just, letting the Jews handle that on their own. Okay, interesting strategy. Gary in Springfield, you have a comment on domestic enemies. Gary, you're on Super Talk. What's up?
Yes, having served many years in the military, I've always been plagued by this idea. I know what a foreign enemy is to fight, but also a domestic enemy and a domestic. If this country gets hit with a massive or whatever, because there are thousands and thousands of terrorists here, and this is global, and we get hit horribly, these people, Kamala Harris, all of them, should get the horrendous effects we give our foreign enemies. And they ought to be tried, they ought to be sent to Leavenworth, and then they ought to receive the punishment of death for what they're doing, legally, by trial, because they're the reason that we're going to lose a lot of people. They are the reason. That soundbite of Kamala Harris just now, all it sounded like to me was some sort of Marxist, communist, something, and you're not going to have to handle hate by yourself. Well, they're full of hate, these people.
No, you're right. They are full of hate. They are. And thank you for the call. Oh, sorry, Gary. We got to jump into a break, but thank you for the call. I really appreciate you. I think that these people are committing crimes. They can get up here and give a nice speech and leave our border wide open, leave us open to terrorist attacks. And it seems like they're getting in front of any Islamophobia pushback when the inevitable terror attack happens because of how open our southern border is. It does feel like they're committing crimes and that they should be held accountable. Now, I'm not gonna go as far to say hang them for treason, but I understand a lot of people feel that way. But let's let the process play out, and I hope that they do face some sort of penalty for what they've done to this nation. But I won't hold my breath and think that it's going to happen anytime soon. 9:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I love the state of Tennessee. I love everything about it, and I love hunting and fishing in the state of Tennessee, and what you guys do is so great. I was born and raised here, and this song is for Tennessee and everybody in it. Well, I have roamed across the land, and I have sailed deepest sea. When I've drawn my last breath, do this one thing for me. Said, won't you take me back to Tennessee, where southern streams are flowing free. Me and mine, Lord, will always be right at home in Tennessee, right at home in the woods of Tennessee, right at home in Tennessee. Awesome.
Got some news for you smokers and ex-smokers coming up at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
What do you mean by ex-smoker? Is that somebody that does it on the new social media platform X? Is that I don't understand.
Yeah.
Sorry. This is the cold medicine kicking in, and I'm super lame today. Super lame. We usually aim for super dope. Today we're riding the third rail of super lame.
Super dope.
Listen, Mayorkas will not commit to deporting pro-Hamas foreign students from U.S. It's interesting. Maybe Mayorkas doesn't want to be seen as Islamophobic. But we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about Trump in his statements on being potentially removed from the ballot in Colorado. And we have more coming your way right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Find me on Instagram, the Gram, as I like to call it, Twitter, True Social. All of them are at Chris Hand on air. If you hit the follow button, I will follow back. It is now 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, a little bit before. And Ken Weaver has the latest headlines for you right now.
Ten o'clock on the dot this Thursday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got a crash. Right shoulder is blocked. It's 40 westbound right there after Briley Parkway near the airport. Full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. Updated guidelines for lung cancer screening of those at high risk. The American Cancer Society now recommending CAT scans of the chest for smokers and ex-smokers between 50 and 80 years old with at least a 20-pack year history, even if they don't have symptoms. Here's ABC News Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Jennifer Ashton.
This CT scan needs to be repeated every year. They're hoping to catch more earlier tumors. They estimate, based on their model system, that they could reduce by the number of deaths by 21%.
Yeah, chest x-rays do not detect small lung tumors. More than 1 million Toyota RAV4s are being recalled after the company says there could be a fire risk associated with how some batteries sit in the vehicles. Gio Benitez says the batteries in small models could become dislodged when the car makes any kind of sharp turn.
Some of them are just too small on the top, and they may not be installed tightly enough. So during a forceful turn, Toyota says it can short circuit and cause a fire. Now, Toyota is still working on this fix. Once that's done, dealers will be able to replace the clamp and the battery tray for free. So if you have one of these affected RAV4s, you're going to receive a notice before the end of the year. But you can also check if your car is involved right now at toyota.com/recall.
Yeah, it's for certain 2013 to 2018 models. And with Halloween out of the way, the Christmas decorations will start to come out at America's big box stores and mom and pop shops. But with the holidays, says Jim Ryan, comes an annual increase in retail crime, including shoplifting.
Surveillance video of shoplifters trundling out the front door with armloads of merchandise keeps store managers awake at night. Even worse is the consequence of fighting back. The clerk at a Houston liquor store is beaten up for trying to stop 3 thieves. Retail customers like Andrea Hatcher are frightened.
We can't even go to the mall and shop anymore. You know, people's lives are in jeopardy just to shop at the mall.
80% of the members of the National Retail Federation say they've seen an increase in violence, even where theft numbers have been constant.
That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
I love the state of Tennessee. I love everything about it, and I love hunting and fishing in the state of Tennessee, and what you guys do is so great. I was born and raised here, and this song is for Tennessee and everybody in it. Well, I have roamed across the land, and I have sailed deepest sea. When I've drawn my last breath, do this one thing for me. Say, won't you take me back to Tennessee, where southern streams are flowing free? always be right at home in Tennessee. Right at home in the woods of Tennessee. Right at home in Tennessee. Awesome.
.05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's going on? It's Chris Hand. Absolutely freezing out there. 38 degrees. Yikes. It's just been cold. Hope you were having a great morning. Did want to talk about what's happening down on the border. Have you heard that we have another caravan headed our way? Do you remember a couple years ago when caravans were a big deal and like the news would cover a caravan headed our way like it was some kind of like thing, like a sight to be seen?
Yeah, it'd be like a top story.
And now we have so many people coming across our borders that nobody even really bats an eye at a caravan.
Oh, there's a couple more caravans. Gotcha.
It's the craziest thing to me. But it's making news. Lots of people are talking about it. 3,000 to 5,000 people headed this way. And spoiler alert, the locals are blaming Biden.
A 3,000 to 5,000 person caravan is heading to the United States, among them migrants from Cuba, Guatemala, and Venezuela. A 3,000 to 5,000 person caravan is heading to the United States, among them migrants from Cuba, Guatemala, and Venezuela. But a different group are arriving at the U.S. border in Mexico's north.
It's completely shocking to see all of these people here crossing from Central Asia, from China, from Turkey, from all over the world. It's very unusual for this area.
No matter the country of origin, facilities in the U.S. are running out of room.
But the blame for that should really go, in my opinion, to the White House and to the governor. All we are able to do now is choose the best of pretty bad solutions.
Oh, let's choose the best of a pretty bad solution. It seems like it's getting from bad to worse. So another 3,000 to 5,000 caravan group of people heading to the southern border. You're probably not going to hear about it on the evening news, because is this even news anymore with how poor our border is? Is this even noteworthy? 3,000 to 5,000 people. The locals, the guys down there working at the NGOs, they blame the Biden administration. They blame the White House. But here's something that I thought was interesting. Fox News, they had on the leader of this caravan. Apparently, there's one guy that's in charge of this caravan, and he, spoiler alert, he also blames Joe Biden.
Now we are learning more about a caravan of nearly 5,000 people making their way to the United States from southern Mexico. The leader of that caravan, there's one leader saying this.
I believe that the Biden administration has dropped the ball. Joe Biden administration has lost the ball. Does not know what to do with immigration, has been this and another thing, and has lost a lot of the power, or hasn't even called the countries into sitting down and make sure that he finds a way to stop this immigration, this bleeding. He has lost the ball. He's not doing anything.
So the leader of the caravan says that Joe Biden needs to find a way to stop the bleeding. That he dropped the ball and he lost the ball. That's the leader of the caravan that's heading to America. It's like, yeah, the guy you have in charge really isn't doing it. He's got to stop the bleeding.
It's ironic.
It's like, it's hard not to laugh at it, but it's also infuriating at the exact same time. Because, I mean, just let's look at Texas alone. Migrants apprehended in Texas-based border sector in the last 2 years exceeds the Houston population, the population of Houston. Border Patrol agents in the 5 Texas-based Border Patrol sectors have apprehended more than 2.6 million migrants during the past 2 fiscal years. The number of migrants apprehended during this time exceeds the city of Houston, Texas's population by more than 300,000 people. And this is just what's been apprehended. This has nothing. This is not the gotaways, right? This isn't who we missed, who got in successfully and stuck into the country successfully. This is who we've apprehended. This is what we know about. This is like ink and paper confirmed. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. But nobody takes it serious. Even the leader of the caravan is like, that Joe Biden guy. What is he doing? What is he doing? What an idiot. It's just, oh, geez. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing what's happening down at the border. And as you'll hear in this clip, obviously, states can't afford this.
States straining to cover the costs. New York currently spending $2 billion to deal with the border crisis, of course, because this is a sanctuary city, and they flow in. Governor Kathy Hochul calls all of it unsustainable for the state of New York. Chicago facing questions over putting $150 million aside for illegal immigrants next year, while many of the people who are living there, American citizens, are struggling. And in Colorado, Denver has spent $24 million on immigrant services as of September.
Ah, yep. That's nice. Does that feel good? It's like, so I posted a meme on my Instagram. On my Instagram story on the gram from Luke Rudkowski. The guy does Weird Change. He's on Timcast all the time. But you remember that viral video with the kids stealing all the candy that's been going around?
Oh,
yeah. And it's like they're claiming it's illegal aliens rifling through the candy. Well, there's a meme, and it was like foreign wars, border crossers, and then the candy bowl says, "My tax dollars."
Taking everything out of it.
Just raiding us. We're being looted. It feels like we're being looted. And the Biden administration, they act like this is a big deal, but literally a federal judge had to order the Biden administration to stop cutting the Texas border barriers and the razor wire. Literally, they had to be ordered by a federal judge in the Western District of Texas. And a temporary restraining order was issued. Temporary. Of course it's temporary, against the Biden administration, prohibiting the disassembling, degrading, tampering of these border barriers put in place by the state of Texas. And that move comes after multiple reports and the viral videos that show Border Patrol agents cutting the wire barriers put in place by the governor of Texas. So it's just crazy to me. It's like, not only are we fighting against these caravans that are coming across, but we're also actively fighting against our own government who's trying to do everything they can to leave that border wide open. It's unbelievable. It's unsustainable. And meanwhile, we have known terrorists coming across the border. And I don't want to make Kamala Harris upset and act like I'm Islamophobic or anything, but we have terror watch list suspects coming across the border. There are memos being passed out that say, look out for Hamas insignia, look out for Hezbollah patches. This is what it looks like, because they know they're coming across the border. Our border being wide open is the greatest security threat we face. They'll tell you we need to spend money over in Ukraine. We got to fight them over there so we don't fight them over here. But we're not doing anything to prevent any fighting over here when we leave our southern border wide open. And we see the terror watch list suspects crossing the border, and it's going way, way up.
When you look back to 2017, that number was at 2. A year later, 6. It was 0 in 2019. Enter 2020, that number starts to go up, and it goes up big time. To 2023, 169 arrests on the terror watch list at our southern border.
Oh, so you're saying the numbers were low under Donald Trump? The 0 1 year under Donald Trump. But under Joe Biden, the border's wide open. The illegal immigration, these people have been emboldened. And you even hear the leader of a caravan saying, yeah, Joe dropped the ball. Joe totally dropped the ball.
The Biden administration has dropped the ball. Joe Biden administration has lost the ball. Does not know what to do with immigration, has been this and another thing, and has lost a lot of the power, or hasn't even called the countries into sitting down and make sure that he finds a way to stop this immigration, this bleeding.
Even a leader of the caravan doesn't understand why Joe Biden can't stop the bleeding on the border. He lost the ball. He dropped the ball. He lost the ball. Nobody knows where the ball is. The ball is missing. And our border woes continue. This is the biggest security threat our country faces. It's unsustainable. 150,000 migrants apprehended in an Arizona border sector in the past 3 months in Tucson. 150,000 migrants who illegally crossed between ports of entry during the past 3 months, including 47,000 who crossed during the first 4 weeks of the new fiscal year. I mean, what? What? So a U.S. Border Patrol chief posted on Twitter on October 27th, week in review, 11,000 apprehensions, 115 federal criminal cases, 66 rescues, 33 pounds of fentanyl, 20 pounds of methamphetamine, 18 human smuggling events, 8 narcotics events. In one tiny sector, 33 pounds of fentanyl. 33 pounds. Oh my gosh. And this isn't going to make anywhere in America safer. Like, the Border Patrol agents that are there doing their job, God bless them. But for every guy that catches 33 pounds of fentanyl, you have to assume that there are other 33-pound shipments of fentanyl that are sneaking through. 1 for 1, 2 for 1, I'm not sure. But there's no way, there's no way that they can claim that this border is secure. And with all the fentanyl coming in, the White House has a plan for it. The White House is telling schools to stock up on Narcan amid fentanyl deaths in the youth. So instead of securing our border, they'd rather spend your tax dollars on Narcan for the public school system. President Joe Biden's administration now advising schools across the United States to keep the overdose reversal drug naloxone, commonly known as Narcan, in stock amid a surging number of fentanyl deaths among American children. They sent a letter to the nation's school system, Biden and the Education Department Secretary Miguel Cardona, and they asked administrators to begin carrying and training teachers on how to administer Narcan when a student is overdosing. So that they'll waste your money, your taxpayer dollars, on getting Narcan in every school, but they're not going to waste any money securing the border. And if they're going to spend any money on the border, it's going to be to cut open razor wire. Unbelievable. So this letter they sent to school in the midst of a fentanyl crisis in this country says studies show that naloxone, Narcan, access can reduce overdose death rates, that its availability does not lead to increase in youth drug use, and that it causes no harm if used on a person who is not overdosing on opioids. It is important to note that individuals should not be afraid to administer naloxone, Narcan, as most states have Good Samaritan laws protecting bystanders who aid at the scene of an overdose. Our schools are on the front lines of this epidemic, but our teachers and students can be equipped with tools to save lives. It sounds all well and good, but if they did this coupled with some more border security, maybe I could get behind it. I mean, it's crazy. Just this week, in Loudoun County, Virginia. This is a territory in Virginia that's famous for the transgender student assaulting a female in a bathroom after he'd been transferred to another school for doing the same thing. In Loudoun County, Virginia, at least 8 high school students have overdosed on fentanyl and had to have Narcan used to save their life just this week. In January of 2023, a high school student was saved by a nurse who administered Narcan after the student overdosed on fentanyl. I mean, we have some real issues in this country. And I don't think that Narcan in schools is going to fix them. I mean, China produces the fentanyl. The fentanyl is then smuggled across the U.S.-Mexico border. And then it makes its way to our streets. And the solution for the Biden administration is more Narcan in schools. 1840 has a great text. Said, I wonder how much Narcan stock Biden owns. Probably owns a bit. 3299 says, we can teach teachers and school administrators how to administer Narcan, but we can't train them to self-defend our children in our classrooms. Yep. I mean, that's such a good point, 3299. We can't have a teacher with a gun that wants to stop a school shooter, but we can have a teacher with Narcan. Unbelievable. 8212 said, so a kid falls out with a seizure, no drugs involved, then they Narcan them. And if there's a reaction, now they're covered. Great. Yep. Kathy texted in and said, you know what else reduces overdose deaths? Securing the border. So this stuff can't get into the country in the first place.
Bingo.
Thank you, Kathy. That's what we're saying. But they're not going to spend your tax dollars on securing the border unless it's, cutting razor wire at the border. They're just going to spend your tax dollars on other things, like Narcan for schools. Maybe they can get like a packaging deal with Disney and put some fun cartoon characters on the Narcan bottle. Make it seem safer and less scary. We don't want anybody to be scared, right? Big Pharma. The border's wide open. Big Pharma wins, right? 1020 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at Paul Winkler, Inc. I got 4 kids. Me and my wife, we have to have a financial plan for the future because the future's uncertain. So with 4 kids, I'm thinking about possibly paying for college, hopefully paying for some weddings, and, none of those goals are going to be achievable without a financial plan. And I've been a listener of Paul's radio show since I moved to Nashville quite a few years ago, like 8 years ago now. So after getting to meet with him and realizing he's the same guy I heard on the air, smart, honest, and legit, I was all in. And Paul and his team hold themselves to a higher level of fiduciary standard than is required. Because of that, government regulators do what government regulators do, and I'm required to tell you that I'm paid every time this commercial airs. But it's because I got to sit down with Paul, break bread, have my questions answered, that I decided to become a client myself. I'm impressed with Paul's team and his knowledge. Paul's a smart guy. He knows the financial world way better than I do. And with Paul and his team, I say this a lot, nothing is done on commission. It's so important to me because I know that they're helping me make the right decisions for my family, not helping me make the right decisions for their family. That's huge. Huge. He's made my financial goals far more realistic by explaining what to do and why. The investment education is evidence-based and backed by Nobel Prize-winning research. So do what I did. Check them out. Every office run by a degreed planner with over 20 years of experience. You can feel the difference between Paul's team and the rest. So do what I did. Talk to one of his team members. Set up a complimentary 15-minute phone call on his website, paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950.
A vote upcoming on a big $14 billion bill that would aid Israel as it fights against Hamas. And have you heard the new Beatles song yet? We'll play part of it for you at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. I know my dad's listening. His ears probably perked up. A new Beatles song?
It's pretty good.
Yeah, do you like it?
I do.
Now, is it new, or is it like computer new?
It's old new.
Okay.
Yeah, John Lennon wrote it and actually laid down the vocals for it in the 70s.
Wow.
All right. I like it. All right.
And then the other members over the years have, after he passed, they added their talents to it. And then they put it all together, and they're releasing it today.
Interesting. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to that. Thanks, Ken.
You betcha, brother.
We also were talking about the White House's plan to help schools stock up on Narcan. Classic Joe. Let's not secure the border where the fentanyl's coming in. Let's just give the schools Narcan so that way when the youth are using fentanyl, they don't OD. Well, there's another crazy story coming out of schools. Not locally, but this one, to me, I think this is a big story. Anaheim in California, their high schools are mandating courses in far-left activism, political engagement, and ethnic studies. This is via a public records request. Parents Defending Education learned that 16 ethnic studies courses have been approved for Anaheim high school students. The American educational system it's trash. It gets picked apart. It gets ripped apart. And it feels like they used to want to educate kids and actually teach them some things that would be useful. And all of that has been slashed with budget cuts. So it feels like our schools are falling apart everywhere we look. And now with critical race and critical gender theory being a part of these new curriculums, parents have started to wake up and speak up against this. But now we're learning that the curriculum being offered in the award-winning Anaheim Union High School District that's been uncovered, they've peppered their learning curriculum with ethnic studies courses, and they're also going to be mandating, a course called Cultural Experiences in America, providing emancipatory education. I have no idea what that means, but it seems scary. Also, they're going to be pushing for things like far left activism. They're going to have students explore the experiences of Indigenous, Native American, Black, African Americans, Chikinks, and Latinx. Also, all right, so here's something that kills me. They say that they're going to have students perform, exploring the experiences of Chikinks and Latinx. Does any Latino want to be called a Latinx? I've never met any Latino who says, I'm Latinx. But they say their courses are seeking to empower students from all backgrounds to pursue justice and equity. Smells like communism. It does. And these teachers are pushing all of this stuff on them. A new requirement component are project-based learning assignments. And they're intended to foster active consciousness, social engagement, and agency through the study of the histories of race, ancestry, national origin, diaspora, racism, ethnicity, and culture. And they're going to be sending kids out into the world, calling for far-left activism, political engagement. This is your schools on communism. Jeff in Hendersonville, you're from California. You have a comment on this. What's up, Jeff?
Yeah, well, hey, so on the CRT thing, absolutely. And we had a friend of ours, our daughter's 14, and her friend came home from school. This was 2 years ago, crying. And, Dad, I'm white. We're so terrible. I mean, it's this whole thing. But not only that, in terms of medically, our same friends took their friends into Sharp-Lee-Steele, which anybody from San Diego knows. It's a major, major medical group. So you're talking the Ronald McDonald House is there. it covers probably about, 30, 40, 50 acres, this hospital complex. Anyway, your rights as a parent, and this is their verbiage on their privacy policy for your child, your rights as a parent stop at age 12. So at age 12, you have the only thing you can do in regards to your child's medical care is you can schedule a flu vaccine appointment for them, and you can pay their bill. Any other treatment, anything, sexual, reassignment, whatever, is you are not entitled to that information. This is in print. I can send it to you. They sent us a text last week, said, "Can you believe this?" And
that's wild.
Is policy. You can't talk to their doctor. You can't inquire. You can't even set their appointments other than them getting a flu vax. So pretty scary, but for real.
Hey, I appreciate the call and the context. Thanks, Jeff. Unless you're getting a vaccine and shelling out some money to Big Pharma, you have no rights as a parent in California, I guess. Weird. 1031 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver with the news.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. And right now in our nation's capital, House lawmakers preparing to vote on the more than $14 billion bill that would aid Israel as it fights against Hamas. Right now in Tennessee, the University of Tennessee in Knoxville says it has addressed a professor's anti-Semitic comments internally. They say they can't name the professor or give out details of specific comments, but they do say there were several comments during one lecture which fall under the definition of anti-Semitic and that there is no place for that in any class being taught on campus. And in entertainment news, what's old is new again. A new Beatles tune released worldwide today. The highly anticipated song, Now and Then, written by the late John Lennon, then later developed by the other band members, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, the late George Harrison. The track was sourced from a Lennon vocal and piano demo recorded in the late 70s. State-of-the-art audio recovery technology was used to isolate Lennon's voice for the mix. It's being released as a double A-side, along with the band's debut single, Love Me Do. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. One of the things that we see from time to time, well, way too often, is this. Let's say that you go to a financial advisor and they say, hey, you need to set up an investment portfolio, and what we need to do is we need to have some of your money in stocks or mutual funds or ETFs or something like that, and we need to have something fixed or guaranteed in your investment portfolio that'll protect you against the market downturns. And quite often what they're talking about, they may not use this word, but often what they're talking about is putting your money into some sort of an annuity, like an indexed annuity or something like that, or a fixed annuity. And what they're doing is they're saying, hey, let's put your money in both of these, which sounds really good. And you should. And typically in an investment portfolio, you do want to have fixed investments and stocks as well in the portfolio to protect against inflation. But here's what happens when you manage a portfolio. Let me use a really, really simple example. Let's say I have a portfolio and I got stocks in there. Then I have my fixed income, my bonds in the portfolio as well. And let's say I have half my money in each. When stocks really do well, what we want to do is they're going to be overweighted in my portfolio. I own too much of them because they've done well compared to bonds. It was supposed to be half and half, and now maybe it's 70% stocks and 30% bonds, let's say, or something like that. So I want to sell some of this and buy some of that to bring it back to 50-50 and back and forth throughout time. Well, the problem is when you're managing a portfolio and rebalancing in that way, bringing it back to the original portfolio mix of half and half in my example, I'm going to have to incur a trading cost or a commission or a back-end surrender with the annuity. It doesn't make any sense to use that product in this particular manner. Why do people do it? Well, the reason quite often is this. Commissions are very high with these products. And a lot of firms, they actually require their advisors to recommend a certain amount of annuities for every person that walks in the door. Now, typically annuities are used for a different purpose. They were actually designed for a totally different purpose, and that was distribution toward the end of life. When somebody looks like they're going to run out of money, they're annuitized. Now, let me tell you something. One study showed there was only like 5% of annuities are ever used in that fashion. Most often they're sold as an accumulation vehicle like this, and they were never really designed for that purpose. If you want to learn more, call us for a free 15-minute phone call or go to our website, paulwinkler.com. The number 615-851-1950 or paulwinkler.com. We don't do anything on commission, and we like to rail against these types of things and help investors do what is in their best interest. paulwinkler.com.
10:37 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's going on? It's Chris Hand. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. You want to join the show? The number to call, text, 615-737-9986. You can find me off air as well. I'm on the Gram, Twitter, True Social. All of them are the same, at Chris Hand on air. Hit the follow button. I will follow back. Trump released a statement on what's happening to him in Colorado. And I think he's going to be taken off the ballot? I don't know. Best I can do is probably hit you with the Mike Pence.
I don't know.
Probably not. He's probably not going to get taken off the ballot. But they are trying their hardest. And he released a statement on just that, them trying to remove him from the ballot. This is Donald Trump.
A trial is currently taking place to try and illegally remove my name from the ballot. I often say that 2024 will be the most important election in the history of our country. The reason for that and that statement is that our country is being destroyed by people that have no idea what they're doing, or even worse, they may very well have an idea. They may hate our country, and they may want to see it destroyed.
And it does feel like that, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel like the people in charge just hate the country and want to see it destroyed? I mean, as this is happening in Colorado, the judge, they're trying to figure out if Trump incited an insurrection, and if he did, is he barred from running for president again? It just seems super weak. The whole case seems super weak. But it is an important election. You look at what's happening on the border. You look at what's happening with big crime in our cities. But Donald Trump goes even a step further. He says this could potentially be the last election ever.
But it may also be the last election we ever have. If this election doesn't work, if this election is rigged and stolen, if bad things happen, our country will not survive.
Listen, if it does get rigged and stolen, I don't think the country will survive either. I mean, look at our national debt. Look at how much money we're shelling out for foreign wars. Look at how wide open our border is. Look at how in disarray our major cities are. Like, this isn't a I don't think that he's just, blowing smoke. I think he believes it. I think a lot of people believe it. If the election doesn't go our way, that the country as we know it could be done. Now, people say, oh, he's calling the election rigged again. Why is he doing that? Well, I don't know, man. There's definitely some serious questions with the 2020 election. But I will point to this news story that's coming out. A judge has overturned a Bridgeport, Connecticut mayoral primary election after Democrat clerk was busted for ballot stuffing. They have this woman on video stuffing multiple ballots into the ballot drop box. Connecticut Judge William Clark overturned the results of the Bridgeport Democratic mayoral primary on Wednesday after those videos emerged of a supporter of the current mayor allegedly stuffing ballots into an absentee ballot drop box. The videos that Judge William Clark said are shocking to the court and should be shocking to all the parties. Now, Clark ordered the parties to kind of figure it out, talk with each other, election officials, and within 10 days, discuss scheduling a new primary. And this is just days before their November 7th election day for this mayor race in Connecticut. It's pretty crazy. What really sealed the deal for the judge, however, is that the win was secured for the current mayor by absentee ballots in his favor. The judge said the volume of ballots so mishandled is such that it calls the result of the primary election into serious doubt and leaves the court unable to determine the legitimate result of the primary. Surveillance video was obtained by the opposition candidate, John Gomes. The Gomes campaign sued the city and demanded the results be thrown out and a new election be scheduled, or to be declared the winner himself. So no new primary date has been announced for this race, but I think this is one to keep an eye on because it will set some precedent. They're stuffing ballots for a mayoral Democrat race. Isn't that interesting? People will tell you, oh, you can't rig an election. Is the mayor going to be removed from the ballot because he's threatening democracy? It reminds me of the Elon clip that we had yesterday where he was talking about George Soros and the value game in where you put your money in what elections and how it's a much higher value on the lower level elections. And this case in Connecticut being a mayoral race, maybe that's kind of one of the ones he was talking about.
So he's good at spotting basically arbitrage, like spotting value for money that other people don't see. So one of the things he noticed was that that the value for money in local races is much higher than it is in national races. So the lowest value for money is a presidential race. Then next lowest value for money is a Senate race, then a Congress, and but once you get to sort of city and state district attorneys, the value for money is extremely good. And Soros realized that you don't actually need to change the laws, you just need to change how they're enforced.
Well, I wonder...
if nobody chooses to enforce the law or the laws are differentially enforced, it's like changing the laws.
I wonder if there's good value in mayoral races. But I just say, Trump is talking, he's saying, if this election gets rigged, the country may not survive. People say, oh, they can't rig an election. Literally, in Connecticut, a judge is overturning a primary election because of stuffing ballots. Stuffing ballots in the ballot drop boxes. It's a crazy time to live, man. We are witnessing so much happening so fast. But what happens if they get away with removing Trump from the ballot?
If Crooked Joe and the Democrats get away with removing my name from the ballot, then there will never be a free election in America again. We will have become a dictatorship where your president is chosen for you. You will no longer have a vote, or certainly won't have a meaningful vote. And you could say, frankly, that has already begun. This truly is our final chance to save America. And with the 2024 election now less than 1 year away, this is your chance to take a stand against tyrants that support the one and only movement that can save our country and make America great again. We must win in 2024. If we don't win, we will not have a country. If we do win, we will make America greater than it's ever been before. Thank you.
So we do need to be paying attention to this stuff. We do need to get out and vote. I'm not saying like elections are completely rigged, we can't vote, but we need to be so undeniable and vote in such overwhelming numbers that if they do try to stuff a ballot box, they fail. That's the only way to go about this, or we need to get this mail-in ballot stuff ended. There's another story that I thought was interesting. When Tucker Carlson was on the Adam Carolla podcast a few weeks ago, he said that they would do anything to not have the election this coming up, the presidential election. And one of the things he said was full-scale conflict with Russia and World War III. They would force World War III, and this was before the Hamas-Israel war even really jumped off. But now we're seeing also reports coming out, and this is a weird story. The Marine Corps Central Command canceled its 248th ball due to unforeseen operational commitments. I don't know what it means. It seems interesting. The Marine Corps Central Command 248th ball, which was set to take place on November 16th, has been canceled due to unforeseen operational commitments. Regretfully, with a strong sense of duty, I write to inform you of a decision that I have made. It's canceled. That was from Major General Chris McPhillips. What unforeseen stuff do they have coming up on the 16th? Are we going to see a ramp up in overseas escalation? Are we going to see more U.S. Marines on the ground? I don't know. It just, to me, it seems interesting. The 248th annual, they've been doing it for 248 times, and this is the one that gets canceled while all of this is happening throughout the world. Just interesting. Something of note that I saw, and I thought to myself, oh, weird. Here's another weird thing I saw. A man in London, he got arrested. You know why he got arrested?
Why?
He got arrested because he was complaining about Palestinian flags flying in London.
He got arrested?
He got arrested for that. A man in London has been arrested after posting a video on social media complaining about Palestinian flags being flown in his neighborhood and questioning why the government has allowed migrants into his country. So you can't do that. Can't do that in jolly old London. And yet another demonstration, Breitbart reports, of the lack of freedom of speech in the United Kingdom. A man was arrested this week after merely questioning the government's immigration policies as he filmed Palestinian flags flying from lampposts and storefronts in London's Bethnal Green. During the video, the so far unnamed man said, "This is the kind of bleep that's going on. You let them into the country, and this is the bleep they come up with." And it's been crazy over in the UK. They had like 100,000 people protesting pro-Palestinian in London. Candace Owens was all over it on social media. Now, I think protests are one thing. I don't want people to not be able to protest, but if you're allowed to go protest and basically be, rooting for the destruction of a country, shouldn't you also at the same time be able to say, hey, what's up with these flags? Why are we letting these people in? You get arrested for that. During the arrest, the man and his apparent family members decried the state of free speech in the UK while asserting their right to criticize Hamas, which has been banned as a proscribed terror organization by the British government. In a statement confirming the footage, the local police in London said, this video shows the arrest of a man on suspicion of a racially aggravated Section 5 public order offense. Wow. It's like, when we were kids, it was like, they're like, how could everybody just stand around and watch the Nazis come to power and not do anything? It's like, let's arrest this guy for complaining about flags and not do anything. The arrested man was taken to an East London police station where he remains at this time. We take all allegations of hate crimes incredibly serious, says the London police. And you're not allowed to complain about pro-Hamas protests in London any longer. The London police have been under criticism over the past month for the double standards in their policing. Listen, they meet They meet Palestinian activists calling for jihad, and they let him go. But a guy complaining about a flag and a Palestinian flag, he gets arrested. One is calling for jihad. One is not calling for jihad. Guess which one gets arrested? The office of the mayor of London, they say, should be disbanded. It is a corrupt, partisan kleptocracy. I don't know. Keep an eye on what happens overseas. Anything that happens in Europe, London, the UK, we're what, 5 years away, 10 years away from that here in the States. That's something my dad always told me when I was growing up. Anything that happens over there, they're bringing here next. It's 10:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, and this is The Chris Hand Show.
Well, the new Speaker of the U.S. House is unapologetic when it comes to the way Republicans want to pay for helping Israel. And it's Christmas in November for Beatles fans. These stories and more at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. I just saw a tweet from none other than Tucker Carlson that, boys, it got my jimmies rustled, I'll tell you what.
Oh, yeah?
Oh.
What happened, Brother Chris?
About an hour ago, Tucker Carlson tweeted out that he was visiting Julian Assange.
Yeah, I'm looking at that right
now.
now.
At a prison this morning.
Whoa.
Yes.
So does that mean Julian Assange is going to be one of the next guests on the Tucker Carlson X show?
That is a good possibility.
Sign me up for that.
Yeah.
If there's a guy that I would love to hear the story from his own mouth, it would be Julian Assange. Because from being held up in an embassy in London for a couple of years to the accusations against him not being credible, to everything he's done, I mean, you can't deny that Julian Assange is one of the most significant figures in politics in decades. Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, those guys are on the same kind of level. And WikiLeaks, can we all just acknowledge that WikiLeaks saved us from a Hillary Clinton presidency? So I think we owe Julian Assange a great deal of respect. I think he's pretty interesting, and I would absolutely sign up to watch that interview. Wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah. Tucker's so good at getting these interviews, he's just a journalist.
Well, and one of the things that he's good at with these interviews is, like, it just feels like a conversation. Like,
yep. Makes them comfortable, makes them talk.
And he lets, like, answers develop and go places as the conversation would naturally flow.
Yeah.
He's not like, okay, that's your answer, here's my next question.
Yep.
Okay, that's your answer, here's my next question. Like, he's always good at developing the thought and seeing wherever it leads. Julian Assange as a guest on Tucker Carlson. Yep. Sign me up for that. It is 10:59 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Ken Weaver standing by with the latest headlines for you on Super Talk.
$11 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. And right now in our nation's capital, House lawmakers planning on voting on the more than $14 billion bill that would aid Israel as it fights against Hamas. Speaker Mike Johnson pushing back against calls for a ceasefire.
Israel doesn't need a ceasefire. It needs its allies to cease with the politics and deliver support now. And that's what we're doing.
Now, Johnson makes no apologies for proposing to take $14.3 billion from the IRS to give to Israel instead. And right now in Tennessee, the University of Tennessee in Knoxville says it's dealing with a professor who made anti-Semitic comments during a lecture. Channel 6 in Knoxville says a school spokesperson revealed there were several comments made that, quote, have no place in any class taught on campus. But UT says it can't tell us exactly what the professor said, and they can't tell you who the professor is due to federal law. UT says leadership is dealing with it internally by outlining expectations and concerns with that faculty member. Entertainment news. It is Christmas in November for Beatles fans. Out today, a very special new Beatles song. Now and Then takes vocals from John Lennon from the 70s, guitar parts from George Harrison in the 90s, and finishing touches done recently by Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney. Special AI technology allowed them to separate and clean up the John Lennon vocals, and that song is out right now. As the latest news, weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
My name is Crystal Knight. I was actually addicted to meth. I had lost my children, my home, my family, all of it. And I was broken and I had really nothing left. We've got the staff who show the love of Christ every day. It's the network here helped me get clean and stay clean. I'm coming up on 3 years. I've worked here over 2. This place changed my life. I just hope that they they donate to this place because they'll love it as much as I do. If they just look into it a little bit, it changes lives.
The temperature's going up and down and up and down. You're kicking on your AC. You're kicking on your heat. Hey, it's Chris Hanford, Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling. If you're noticing your HVAC system is on the fritz, I got a guy for you to call, Jeff Eddy and his crew. I mean, it can be so hard to find somebody that you trust when it comes to fixing your HVAC. Are they selling you a bill of goods or are they telling you the truth? Well, with Efficient HVAC, you can trust them to tell you the truth. They're a small company, but they have big service, and you know what's even better? They're honest. So if you're trying to make that decision to repair or replace your system, even if you had another guy come tell you that you got to replace it, call Jeff Eddy and his team for a second opinion, because the other guys, they may just pressure you to replace your system because, well, they make more money that way. Not with Jeff Eddy and his crew. They're looking for lifetime customers, and if it just means replacing a part, they'll tell you just replace a part. Plus, with Efficient, they offer up to 18 months, same as cash financing on your next unit. They're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric and an elite pro partner with Rheem. Go to efficienthvac.net or call 615-784-4424. $11:05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Shout out to so we have the best listeners. Obviously, I'm feeling a little under the weather. You can probably hear it in my voice, but I getting like messages on Instagram on like remedies to help you feel better.
Oh, that's so nice.
It's so nice.
I love that.
Yeah.
We do have some very great listeners.
We have the best listeners, the very best. Thank you for being a part of the show on the Super Text line and the phone line, 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. Rhinos are dropping. Rhinos are dropping like flies. Ken Buck has announced that he is opting against re-election. Ken Buck is a Republican out of Colorado. He will not run for re-election. And this is after Kay Granger, a Republican out of Texas, announced that she would also not seek re-election. Buck, who is in his fifth term, he was trying to keep people guessing in October with his evolving reasons for opposing or supporting, this GOP speaker, that GOP speaker. Ultimately, he didn't vote for Jim Jordan, and he blamed Jordan voting against certifying the 2020 presidential election results. She said, that's why he was out. Jordan's votes, of course, he voted the same way that Mike Johnson voted as far as certifying the 2020 election. But Ken Buck supported him just days after using the other reason to not support Jim Jordan. But Ken Buck is out. He's out. I think a lot of these guys, when you see like Ken Buck, Mitt Romney, Kay Granger saying that they're not going to be running for a re-election, I think that it's to spare them the grind of running a re-election campaign, because it is a grind. Like, they have to get out there and do certain things to get reelected. But also to spare them the humiliation when they're primaried and subsequently removed from office via the vote. Because I don't think that this is going to be an election year for the Rhinos. I don't think that you would see a Ken Buck get reelected or a Mitt Romney get reelected if they were running, because I feel like the American public has just had enough of these Rhinos. But rhinos do rhino things. Mitch McConnell is issuing a stern warning to other GOP senators. And I kind of like this. That he says, anyone backing Josh Hawley's anti-corporate donation bill could mean incoming consequences. Okay. All right. So Josh Hawley is he's presenting a new bill, and he's introduced this legislation. It's called Ending Corporate Influence on Elections Act. And the bill aims to get corporate money out of American politics and dramatically cut back on publicly traded corporations' ability to influence elections. It sounds awesome. Sign me up. But in a recent private meeting, according to the Gateway Pundit, Mitch McConnell issued a stern warning to any Republican senator that would think about supporting Josh Hawley's new bill. Pretty weird. I do tend to like these things. A lot of times when these bills come up, it's good to just see where people are. Who's going to vote for it, who's going to vote against it, even if it doesn't pass. Josh Hawley went on record and said for decades, corporate America has funneled billions of dollars into elections in favor of politicians who favor their woke social agendas instead of American voter interests. This legislation would hold mega corporations' feet to the fire and stop their dollars from buying our elections. The Ending Corporate Influence on Elections Act would ban publicly traded corporations from making independent expenditures, political ads, or other electioneering communications, ban publicly traded companies from giving their money to super PACs. I think this is a good thing. Senator Hawley's new legislation is part of a larger agenda to hold corporate America accountable for drowning out the voices of the American people. And they have been drowning out the voices of American people. In September, Hawley introduced legislation to cap credit card interest rates at 18%, which would bring relief to working people across America. I mean, how many people are just like paying through the nose on interest right now? And in this economy, more and more people are using credit to buy groceries. So Hawley just seems to be putting forward America First policy, and I like that. Last month, Senator Hawley also visited with workers on strike at the General Motors plant. In May, he introduced legislation to raise tariffs on imports from China until the United States' unsustainable bilateral trade deficit comes into balance. In April, he unveiled 2 bills to crack down on big pharma's exploitive drug prices and cap the cost of insulin. And then in December 22, Hawley stood up and voted to support rail workers when they were dealing with their sick leave and all that was happening in 22. I mean, so Hawley has a long history of what seems to be doing the right thing and fighting for the little guy. I'm actually looking forward to seeing Josh Hawley speak. He's going to be at America Fest in Phoenix, December 16th through 19th. I'm going to be doing my show down there live on the 18th and 19th and hanging out with some of my friends from Turning Point. And I will try my best to get Hawley on the show because I like what he's doing. I do. And whether it gets passed or not, I think that this is really important because it really exposes the rhinos in the Republican Party. And you see it on full display when, according to a new report, McConnell, who has, he says he's an advocate for fewer restrictions on campaign finance, cautioned his colleagues that supporting this bill from Hawley would lead to repercussions from the center-right political sphere. Mitch McConnell, old Rhino Mitch. CNN reported that, according to multiple sources familiar with that Tuesday lunch meeting, McConnell warned GOP senators that they could face incoming from the center-right if they signed on to Hawley's bill. McConnell also read off a list of senators who won their races amid heavy financial support from the Senate Leadership Fund, an outside group tied to the GOP leader that spends big on TV ads in battleground states. And on that list of senators, Hawley himself, according to sources familiar with the matter. But in an interview, Hawley defended his bill, and he said that corporate influence should be limited in elections. I think that's the best thing that we could do for the American people. Hawley said, I think it's wrong as an original matter. I think it's warping our politics, and I see no reason for conservatives to defend it. It's wrong as a matter of the original meaning of the Constitution. It's bad for our elections. It's bad for our voters. And I just think on principle, we ought to be concerned. And I completely agree with that. I've often said we need to do something about how much is being spent on some of these races. Like, can we do like a salary cap, like in sports? Like you can only spend X amount on the race.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Right? Like make it level, make it even.
Like a hard cap. This is what you get.
And then you want to go into like the luxury tax. Okay, well then you have to donate $2 for every extra dollar spent to a charity. Write that one down.
It's a great idea.
Thank you.
It's one of the best ideas you've had. It was awesome.
Oh, all right. I've been doing the show. I've been doing the show now since July. And this is the first time I've gotten the applause from Mac Morey. I'm a little bit taken aback by it.
It's rare. It's rare.
This is rare.
I love that.
I mean, I really like Josh Hawley. I like the things he's doing, and they can try and throw mud at him and say, oh well, Hawley benefited from the GOP leader money in that group, and we helped him get elected because of it. Well, okay, he's still trying to change things. Like I always. It like killed me when they would like rake Trump through the coals over, oh, well, Trump benefited from the tax stuff. It's like, okay. Like he didn't make the rules. Like learn the system, beat the system, change the system. Like, let's go. According to a list of senators obtained by CNN, McConnell singled out a number of lawmakers who benefited from his outside group over the last 3 cycles. Mike Braun of Indiana, Kevin Cramer of North Dakota, Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, and a bunch more. J.D. Vance of Ohio. Now, I don't think that like just because these senators are having money spent on them, that it means that they're a rhino. Like again, use the system to your advantage, and I'm all for that. But I'm also all for limiting this corporate influence in our politics. So, however that may look, let's make it happen. Can we do that? I think that would be good for just about everybody. And then maybe corporations could stop taking ridiculous political stances and donating money to Black Lives Matter and other ridiculous situations like that. Maybe corporations can just get back to focusing on what they're supposed to be focused on. You know, turning a profit, having a good company, things like that. I don't know. I'm probably getting ahead of myself. That's probably a bridge too far.
Whoa, slow down there, man.
I'm not gonna get a round of applause for that one. According to a new poll coming out of Siena College, they're saying that New York is in play for Donald Trump in the presidential election of 2024. Donald Trump competitive in blue New York State. I saw the headline. I thought, okay, what does this mean? The survey found Biden is leading Trump by 9 points in the Empire State, 46-37. Okay, I was like, well, how's that competitive? Well, 8% of people polled said they don't know who they supported or refused to answer. That, to me, sounds like a very New York way of saying I'm voting for Trump. Now, this reality, according to Breitbart, coincides with Biden's waning approval among New Yorkers. And, of course, his approval is waning among New Yorkers. The entire city has been overrun by illegal immigrants. I was looking at hotel prices in New York for a friend of mine, and we're looking. I'm like, why are these hotels so expensive? And I was like, oh, that's right, because the government is putting migrants in all of the hotels. The city is becoming a war zone. So, of course, Biden's approval numbers are waning among New Yorkers. His favorability is underwater. He's got 45% viewing him favorably, and most, 52%, view him unfavorably. That reflects a direct switch from 50 to 45% favorability that he saw in September. Trump is enjoying strong support from New York Republicans. Of course he is. And it's only going up. However, you know, one thing that's important to note, Trump is taking an edge among independent voters in New York, leading Biden by 7 points, or 39-32. But how does that look when you start throwing in the extras. Well, Interactive Polls put up Siena College's poll. They said in a direct head-to-head, Biden in New York, 46, Trump, 37. When you start throwing in others, Biden, 38, Trump, 31, Kennedy Jr., 13, West, 5%. Not Kanye.
Okay.
Cornell.
I
saw you, but your eyes bugged out for a second. What? The people love
campaigning.
The people love Kanye. I don't know what it is in New York. They just keep voting for him. The absolute madmen. But it looks like, so it's just in just a head-to-head, it's 46 to 37 in New York, Biden to Trump, right? When you throw in the independents, it looks like Joe Biden is losing more. Trump is losing some. Trump lost 6 points. Joe Biden lost, 8? Biden loses 8. It's just interesting. I don't know if it means anything at this point in time, but it is a snapshot in time, and it's something to keep your eye on. The recent immigration crisis in New York is absolutely helping Donald Trump, and it's definitely explaining why people don't like Joe Biden. More than 8 in 10 voters continue to say that the recent influx of migrants to New York is a serious problem for the state. 57%, very serious, up slightly from 54% in August. Well, I wonder how they're going to feel when this new caravan arrives at their doorstep. You know, you'll see videos of migrants coming in. Hey, where are you headed? Where are you from? Venezuela, New York. El Salvador, New York. Mexico, New York. Everybody's going to New York. It can only help Trump. And we have a new caravan headed their way. And it's going to be there very soon. 3 to 5,000 people headed to our border currently.
A 3,000 to 5,000 person caravan is heading to the United States, among them migrants from Cuba, Guatemala, and Venezuela. A 3,000 to 5,000 person caravan is heading to the United States, among them migrants from Cuba, Guatemala, and Venezuela. But a different group are arriving at the U.S. border in Mexico's north.
It's completely shocking to see all of these people here crossing from Central Asia, from China, from Turkey, from all over the world. It's very unusual for this area.
No matter the country of origin, facilities in the U.S. are running out of room.
But the blame for that should really go, in my opinion, to the White House and to the governor. All we are able to do now is choose the best of pretty bad solutions.
Oh, let's make the best of pretty bad solutions. I think it's funny that, this isn't normal over here to see all these Chinese and, Middle Eastern migrants. Well, under Joe Biden, it's the new normal. It's the new normal. Also under Joe Biden, the new normal is the liberal NGO groups down at the border are like, hey, this is Joe's fault. Yeah. That's the new normal too. They're not even hiding it anymore. It's like, sorry, it's this is Joe's fault.
The guy in charge. Look at him.
Yeah. Maybe we could send 10% of that caravan to the big guy and just send him right up to D.C.
Well, and those numbers you read, those are starting to mean more and more, right? I mean, the closer we get to 2024.
I think that's a good point. The closer we get, the more weight that they hold. It's 11:20 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Your thoughts on his campaign?
Boy, Democrats don't like that new U.S. House Speaker. You got to hear what one says as they're getting ready to vote on an aid package to Israel. And when's it going to snow in Nashville? The Tennessean asked the meteorologist in charge over at the National Weather Service in Nashville. We'll tell you what she said coming up at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited, Ken. I want some snow.
No.
No?
No, Brother Chris.
Oh, come on.
we got the kids' sleds for Christmas last year. We haven't been able to use them.
You boys.
Give me something.
You boys, you got to stop talking like that.
Are we talking reckless, Ken?
You're talking recklessly.
Well, listen, I was joking with my kids that we're going to be going to the Outer Banks for Christmas.
Oh, yeah?
I said to him, listen, it'll probably snow while we're gone. And it'll be melted by the time we get back. And it'll be another year of not using your sleds. Like, Dad. I just feel like that's how it's going to happen. Just set them up, You got to set up those expectations realistically.
That's right.
So as upset as Ken Weaver is with me for wanting snow, Democrats are upset with Dean Phillips for launching a primary campaign against Joe Biden. House Democrat Chair Pete Aguilar. How do you say his last name?
Aguilar.
All right, Pete Aguilar. He was slamming Dean Phillips and how he's running for president.
A member of your own caucus, Dean Phillips, recently launched his presidential run against President Biden. Have you spoken to him since this launch, and what are your thoughts on his campaign?
I haven't spoken to him since his launch. The last conversation I had with him was when he told me he wasn't going to be a member of the Democratic Policy and Communications Committee. I haven't had any discussions, and I don't know why someone would not do their job here to campaign in a state that doesn't have any delegates. But that's I'm not a presidential strategist.
Oh, all these flavors, and Pete Aguilar chooses to be salty. For me, I think it's quite hilarious that Dean Phillips is launching a primary bid. And I also think it's funny that, Democrat Chair Pete Aguilar says, why would someone not do their job here? It's like, oh, geez, I didn't know you Democrats were working hard doing your job. Last I checked, unless you're getting Narcan in schools or cutting razor wire at the border, I don't know what Democrats are up to these days. But I'm all for Joe Biden being primaried. I think that do I think Dean Phillips has a chance? Absolutely not. He's a bit of a joke. But you can't deny that it's kind of given Joe a swift kick in the rear end. Otherwise, why would he have gone to Minnesota yesterday to a hog farm to sell all the good of Bidenomics?
Minnesota!
Oh, you love it, don't you, Mac?
That gets Mac fired up.
I love it.
Mac is so hyped.
Never heard someone so excited to say Minnesota.
No, the people that live in Minnesota have never heard somebody so excited to say Minnesota.
Oh, I can't wait till he says it in Texas or something like that.
So Dean Phillips is out there, and he's running to be president. And Joe Biden is counter-programming and showing up in Minnesota. That's where he's showing up, Mac.
Minnesota!
And he's in Minnesota. He's in Minnesota to remind people about all the work that they've done, and also remind farmers that you make more money with Joe Biden.
When a farmer sells his commodities normally, you have to go through the grocery store, and the farmers get about 18 cents for every federal dollar, every dollar they had. Sometimes you get less than that.
Oh. It could be even worse. So vote blue no matter who, right? It's 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver with the news.
$11:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. And right now in our nation's capital, California Democratic Congressman Pete Aguilar doesn't like how Republicans want to pay for that $14 billion aid package to Israel.
We're learning a lot
about this new speaker this week with these first legislative decisions, and this has been a complete and total disaster.
Yeah, Mike Johnson and the other Republicans propose cutting funding to the IRS to offset the money for Israel. Right now in Tennessee, News 2 says a former state corrections officer has been sentenced to 2 years in prison. Keenan Lister pleaded guilty to beating up an inmate in a holding cell, then ignoring the inmate's medical needs from that beating at the Trousdale Turner Correctional Facility in Hartsville in 2019. And when is it going to snow in Nashville? The Tennessean asked a meteorologist in charge at the National Weather Service Nashville, Chrissy Hurley. She said it's still too early for snow predictions, but it is an El Nino year, which, she says, means more opportunities for wintry weather the further south you go because the jet stream pushes further south. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. One of the things that we see from time to time, well, way too often, is this. Let's say that you go to a financial advisor and they say, hey, you need to set up an investment portfolio, and what we need to do is we need to have some of your money in stocks or mutual funds or ETFs or something like that, and we need to have something fixed or guaranteed in your investment portfolio that'll protect you against the market downturns. And quite often what they're talking about, they may not use this word, but often what they're talking about is putting your money into some sort of an annuity, like an indexed annuity or something like that, or a fixed annuity. And what they're doing is they're saying, hey, let's put your money in both of these, which sounds really good. And you should. And typically in an investment portfolio, you do want to have fixed investments and stocks as well in the portfolio to protect against inflation. But here's what happens when you manage a portfolio. Let me use a really, really simple example. Let's say I have a portfolio and I got stocks in there. Then I have my fixed income, my bonds in the portfolio as well. And let's say I have half my money in each. When stocks really do well, what we want to do is they're going to be overweighted in my portfolio. I own too much of them because they've done well compared to bonds. It was supposed to be half and half, and now maybe it's 70% stocks and 30% bonds, let's say, or something like that. So I want to sell some of this and buy some of that to bring it back to 50-50 and back and forth throughout time. Well, the problem is when you're managing a portfolio and rebalancing in that way, bringing it back to the original portfolio mix of half and half in my example, I'm going to have to incur a trading cost or a commission or a back-end surrender with the annuity. It doesn't make any sense to use that product in this particular manner. Why do people do it? Well, the reason quite often is this. Commissions are very high with these products. And a lot of firms, they actually require their advisors to recommend a certain amount of annuities for every person that walks in the door. Now, typically annuities are used for a different purpose. They were actually designed for a totally different purpose. And that was distribution toward the end of life. When somebody looks like they're going to run out of money, they're annuitized. Now, let me tell you something. One study showed there was only like 5% of annuities are ever used in that fashion. Most often they're sold as an accumulation vehicle like this, and they were never really designed for that purpose. If you want to learn more, call us for a free 15-minute phone call or go to our website, paulwinkler.com. The number 615-851-1950 or paulwinkler.com. We don't do anything on commission, and we like to rail against these types of things and help investors do what is in their best interest. paulwinkler.com.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Mac Maury producing, Ken Weaver in the newsroom, and you, the most important member of our crew, on the Super Text line and the phone lines at 615-737-9986. A lot of people don't like snow in Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, I know. I'm seeing that. A lot of snow haters.
I feel like
Bring it on.
Yeah, I feel like you guys don't like fun. Like, who doesn't want a snow day?
Come on.
Like,
I'm all about it. Snowball fights, sledding.
Let's do it. It's sticking your tongue to a telephone pole. You know what I mean? Just classic Americana stuff.
I double dog dare you.
Yeah, it's a big one. I want snow, at least a little bit, just
Yes.
a taste.
Yes, please.
I feel like around here, I know because I grew up in Boston, not Canada, Boston. Yeah, sometimes I feel like Hunter Biden when he needs a fix. I'm like, I just want a little taste of snow.
Just come on, please.
Just give me a little taste. I don't need too much. I don't need a bunch. Just a little. Just give me a little taste. I'm excited. I love the winter festivities. I'm gonna be doing the ice at Opryland thing.
So you're it's Christmas season now for you. You're okay.
It was like, yeah, like
this has started a few weeks
basically after the high schoolers showed up at my house not wearing costumes at like 9:00 at night. After I sent them away, it was Christmas. It was Christmas. My neighbor across the street, I don't know if he had it up beforehand. I think it was like right after like Halloween ended, like 8:00 ended, and boom, the inflatable Grinch was up. It was awesome.
I love it.
I was awesome.
Yes.
I'm all for it.
Me too.
It's
Bring it on.
Yeah. We're doing Christmas things now. It's you know, that's what people actually do. Christmas stuff. You know, there are migrants breaking into our country nonstop. I had a friend send me this on the Twitters. We were talking about how a judge told the Biden administration that you can't cut razor wire anymore. You can't. Federal judge ordered them to stop cutting the razor wire at the Texas border. I mean, and that just happened like 2 days ago. It's after multiple reports of Border Patrol agents cutting the wire barriers. And a U.S. federal judge granted a temporary restraining order saying that the federal government cannot disassemble, degrade, tamper with, or transform the border barriers put in place by the state of Texas under Governor Greg Abbott. And we were talking about that story because I thought it was awesome. Like, finally, we get a judge that's going to stand up and do the right thing. Well, I'm sorry I got my hopes up. But there's a Twitter account called Border Hawk. And they have a video now that shows the Biden administration using forklifts to raise the razor wire and allow illegal immigrants to crawl underneath it after that order to not remove the razor wire. So I was happy about it. I spent about an hour today being happy that the razor wire was going to stay put at the border before having that dream shattered.
I'm Efrain Gonzalez, correspondent with Border Hack News. These are exclusive images of how mass crossings of hundreds of migrants are being carried out in recent days at Eagle Pass, raising the barbed wire with machinery. This huge caravan of around 300 migrants crossed into Eagle Pass thanks to Border Patrol agents lifting the barbed wire. The hundreds of migrants crossed in a few minutes, this being the fourth massive crossing that our cameras witnessed in the last days of October. Previously, these caravans are sent to uninhabited areas of the Rio Grande, where Border Patrol awaits them with forklift tractors. Given these facilities, migrants say they prefer to cross the river instead of processing legal entry.
So they're lifting up the razor wire with forklifts. Absolutely insane. I just wonder who is in the forklift doing this, and how can they think that this is the right thing to do? But they're doing it. I'm watching the video at the Rio Grande where they're lifting up the razor wire with a forklift. Who gave them a forklift?
¿Cuál es ahora? ¿Cruzar por el río Bravo con sus niños o CBP-1?
Cruzar por el río Bravo y no, primeramente en el nombre de Dios. Se tarda mucho.
They're saying they crossed the river. This is the best place to cross.
These large groups of migrants are informed about the place and time when the forklifts raise the barbed wire to cross in drops.
I mean, shout out to Border Hawk for that video, and thank you to my friend for sending it to me. But they're lifting up the razor wire with a forklift. They're not cutting it, so they're technically not breaking that order. But a huge caravan of 300 migrants crossed into Eagle Pass thanks to Border Patrol lifting the barbed wire. Hundreds of migrants crossed in a matter of minutes. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This is, it feels like it's an invasion and our Border Patrol is down there just facilitating it. And there's more migrants coming. Illegal aliens. And there's a caravan now. I mentioned this earlier in the show. Caravans used to be a big deal. You know, when these caravans first started happening, I remember they would dominate the news cycle. Like, what? A caravan is heading here? And now we're just like, all right, it's a caravan. But even the leaders of these caravans put the blame at the feet of Joe Biden.
Now we are learning more about a caravan of nearly 5,000 people making their way to the United States from southern Mexico. The leader of that caravan, there's one leader saying this.
I believe that the Biden administration has dropped the ball. Joe Biden administration has lost the ball. Does not know what to do with immigration, has been this and another thing, and has lost a lot of the power, or hasn't even called the countries into sitting down and make sure that he finds a way to stop this immigration, this bleeding. He's just lost the ball. He's not doing anything.
He says he lost the ball. He dropped the ball. He lost the ball. I think that one of the things that's not being discussed enough is, like, we talk about parallel economy as conservatives, about spending our money where, you know, with people that don't hate us and non-woke companies, and creating a parallel economy. But what we're seeing on the border is a parallel migration system has been effectively created via cartels and, foreign nationals. And now there are these new migration routes that are being dominated, and nobody's coming in legally. They don't want to come in legally. They want to take the parallel route. You get more bang for your buck that way. And our own federal government is just assisting it every step of the way. Every step of the way. It's crazy. Jeff in Hendersonville, you have a comment on the migration. Jeff, you're on Super Talk. What's up?
Hey, gents. I spoke to you a little earlier today. My wife and I went out for drinks last night down in Nashville. A really, really nice hotel, bistro downstairs. And a young Hispanic gal came to bus our table. And I lived in Central America for 3 years, so I kind of recognized she's from Guatemala. So I asked her, my Spanish is still pretty good, hey, when did you come here? She said, 2 months ago. I go, really? How'd you get here? She goes, by bus. I go, really? From Guatemala? That's crazy. And I go, why Tennessee? She goes, I don't know. This is where they sent me. I said, what? Wow. Yeah, and not a single, I can mention the account. I don't know if I can or not, but it's the bistro under a really nice hotel. And so, like, who is orchestrating this? Who's getting these people to the border? Who's getting them across? Who's busing them? Who's getting them jobs? Who's shipping them to primarily red states? I mean, I want some answers here. This is insanity, and there's nothing racial about it. A lot of these people share our values, and they want a better life. But especially in what happened in Israel, like, come on, man. It's a porous border. It's a threat to national security. But this is orchestrated. This girl couldn't even tell me why she picked Tennessee. I don't know. This is where they sent me.
Well, and it's interesting. And it stinks that you have to even, like, have the precursor of, this isn't racial. This is just, common sense.
Yeah.
But, like, that's how the left has warped this whole conversation. Like, oh, you're a racist. You don't want somebody to come into your country. Why? Because they're brown? It's like, no, because they're sneaking in illegally. We don't know who they are,
Well,
and they're coming in by the hundreds of thousands.
Who's enabling this? We're saying they. I want names. I want specific names and organizations that are orchestrating this.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
It's absolutely by design. Anyway, have a great day.
Hey, I appreciate the call, Jeff. Thanks for the info. I bet you we have a lot more restaurants, employing illegal migrants than we would know. I wonder how do they get the paperwork for all that? JT has an interesting question. The young Guatemalan lady, is she being labor trafficked? Definitely a good question. I mean, I've read stories where you cross over via a cartel and how you repay them is you work in a factory for the cartel. I mean, wasn't it Tyson Foods had a big bust with a bunch of illegal immigrants?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's part of the deal.
3996 says, where do they all live?
Best I can do is a Mike Pence.
I don't know.
Although I will say, under the bridge on 24 as you come into Nashville, there's like all sorts of homeless encampments under these bridges. I don't know if maybe one is not the same, but every aspect of American life has gotten worse since Joe Biden came into office. Every aspect. The border's less secure. Homelessness is on the rise. Inflation is rampant. It's gotten chaotic out here. It's gotten absolutely chaotic. 6447 said, I wonder what happened to the law that Bush Jr. put in place that fines companies that employ illegal immigrants. Well, I mean, like we were talking about with the Elon Musk clip and George Soros. It's not about changing the laws. It's about changing how you enforce them. So maybe that law is still there. It's just not being enforced. It's crazy, man. Crazy times. Matt Murphy has been mulling about. He's got a banger of a show coming up. We're going to talk to him, see what we can expect on Murphy's show, which kicks off at noon. Don't forget The Drive. We'll take you home with Brian Wilson at 3 o'clock. And I am going to be with you. I'll be with you all day if you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or True Social. At Chris Hand on Air. Hit the follow button. I will follow back. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
For many of us, generators are becoming a must-have household appliance. From unpredictable weather to surprise outages, it's better to be safe than sorry. Generator Supercenter of Nashville offers fast and easy installations with 24/7 service and monitoring to all brands of generators and expert repairs done right. Our mission is to make owning a backup generator simple and easy. Visit your local store today or check us out online. Generator Supercenter of Nashville. We serve all Middle Tennessee.
11:54 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, joined in studio by Matt Murphy. Most important question of the day, Matt. Are you pro-snow or anti-snow?
All right, so that
Don't
might be
waffle
no.
on me. I feel like
I'm not
he's
waffling, but
he's looking for like a PC answer.
what do you mean? What do you mean?
I don't know how it could be more clear. Are you pro-snow?
Are we?
Or are you anti-snow?
Are we in the Arctic Circle where there's always 28 feet of snow?
I'm talking about.
Are
right
we in
here,
Alaska
right now? Are you pro-snow or? Are you
Yes, I could go
anti-snow?
for some snow right now. I want a snowfall every year.
Clip that.
I want about. This is where I'm at on snow. I want a nice foot of snow for a week.
Okay.
I want everybody to have fun.
A couple snowmen.
Some snowmen.
Yes.
Kids are out gallivanting about. We're all at work, sick of one another and stinky. And then the sun comes out and the snow goes away. That's what I want.
Well, during Ken Weaver's last newscast, he had a meteorologist on. And
meteorologist.
He did. He had a very fancy meteorologist. Said, too soon to tell. I was like, what a weak position to
Too
take.
soon.
Like, if we're gonna ask you, is it gonna snow? And you're gonna give us a statement.
That is such a classic TV thing. Coming up tonight at 10, snow. Some say yes, others disagree. It's only on News 5. Like, what? What did you just say to me?
Is it happening or not?
Others disagree. What are you talking about?
You disagree.
They don't know.
JT on the super text line says this country has enough snowflakes.
But you know what I'm saying? I grew up in Georgia where we always wished for snow. Never got it. I know you grew up in Canada where they always had snow.
I did, eh? Snow and moose.
But it was such a rarity when I was a kid that I find myself, 11 years old again when the mention of snow comes around. Even though we work in a profession where snowfall necessitates we have to be at work.
Dude, I lived in Detroit one year. There was 17 feet of snowfall.
Whoa.
And we could walk out of our second-story balcony onto the snowbank that had been created by the plow trucks and walk down to the
So
first
awesome.
floor.
So sweet.
Yeah.
So cool.
The year I lived in Connecticut, well, it was about 10 months. And by the way, if you only have 10 months to live, I strongly encourage you to move to Connecticut because by the time it's done, you'll want to die. So, but they had like 84 inches of snowfall that winter. And when we moved, it was still like late summer, and the roads on the way to our apartment were really extra wide, and I had no idea why the roads were extra wide. It baffled me. Why did you need to build so much road? I found out.
Yeah.
Snowplows, baby.
That's it.
You gotta have some place to put the snow. But the Yankees up north, they think they got it all figured out when it snows, and they do. To a large degree. They got the snow plows, they got the salt, they got all of that. You let it get to 95 degrees one summer and watch those people freak out.
That's true.
Yep. Global warming.
Of course, we do the same thing during the snow and the ice.
I remember last year it snowed, and weren't you late to work? Snow?
I was not. Well, no, I was late because of the traffic jam that ensued because of the snow, and I could not get around it. I got stuck on the interstate. I was on the way to do Red Eye Radio, left at 9:15 for a midnight show, and I lived 20 minutes away. It was snowing. Everything was fine until we crested the hill, and then all the traffic stopped. Everything stopped. What am I supposed to do?
So if it snows this year, are you going to plan more ahead?
No, I'm not. I am not going to plan ahead.
Oh, yeah, if it snows, I'm sick. Sorry, guys.
Right. I'm allergic to snow. To stay inside. No, I'm pro snow. I want a good snowfall every year.
Heck yes.
Sure. What about now? Growing up, you grew up north, right?
I grew up, right outside of Boston.
I mean, so did that jade you?
I mean, I don't want a bunch of it, but I do want give me a sledding hill. There's like a hill over by MTSU that everybody sleds on. Give me one good snow. We can break out the sleds,
like
make
a nice
some
foot of
memories.
snow.
Yeah, get some hot chocolate, go home.
Let's go.
And be done with it.
All right, I'm in. When is that happening?
As soon as it happens, I will
let me know.
I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Because it might not also.
I have Hunter Biden on the show later. Not actually on the show, but I'm going to talk about Hunter Biden on the show.
Also, snow topics. It's 11:59 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.